I'm laughing because I'm looking at once again Charles Hurt's column today in the Washington Times, and I laughed when I read it the first time, and now I'm chuckling again. And we say Merry Christmas, ho ho ho, and thank you to Charles Hurt for joining us today on this day after Christmas. Hey, Charles.
Hey, Steve. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Very good.
All right. So your piece today, called titled "The Nutcracker: The Duck Dynasty of Ballet." I'm with you. I don't think I've ever gone to the ballet. I sat through one opera, and I don't intend to do that again. But the ballet, I don't think I could bear. Anyway, so tell us about your little outing to see the Nutcracker.
Well, I mean, I have never been to a ballet, and I don't think I will ever need to go again. But when your wife suggests that she has gotten tickets for the whole family to go to the ballet, there's only one answer, and that is yes, ma'am. Let's put the kids in the car.
I hope that wasn't your only Christmas present from her.
No, I think that was my Christmas present to her.
Oh, okay, okay.
I went largely without complaint. But I have to tell you, Steve, I was blown away by the thing. You know, I mean, obviously, you can't go through life without getting to hear Peter Tchaikovsky's music, and so I knew the music, but I didn't know anything else. But the whole thing was all very. It was a pro-American performance. There was a whole scene where George Washington and his troops they were wearing, they looked like Tea Party patriots. They were wearing tricorn hats and muskets like guns, and they were carrying them on stage, and they were killing the Rat King, who of course was the British royal, and they won, and this was celebrated. It was the most amazing. I was so pleasantly surprised because I'm so used to just going to these things and having everything American denigrated, any sort of presentation of history totally perverted, but it wasn't like that at all. And I ended up leaving. It was funny. I left thinking, well, that was actually a lot of fun. I don't ever need to do it again, but I really enjoyed that. But I was really thrilled. And this is and you know this with kids, that every now and then you'll get there'll be a moment where you think, well, maybe I'm raising my kids okay. And that was when we got in the car, and I said, well, that was a lot of fun. Thanks, Mom. And the kids were all three of them, even my daughter, who's 12, was like, no, it wasn't. That was just weird. And I was like, what are you talking about, Lily? And she said, there were men running around in tights, and that is just not right. It was at that moment that I thought, well, maybe, just maybe, I haven't totally screwed up these children.
And then what you said was, or I don't know if you said it to them, but you pointed out in your piece, it happens every Sunday and Monday and Thursday on the NFL.
That's right. I did say that to them, but that did not. That only got me a big roll of the eyes from the back seat.
You know what also you talk about, and you know, in this, how before it started, a guy came out on stage and started saying that if you applaud for the male dancers, you say bravo, and if you applaud for the women dancers, you say brava.
Yeah, I mean, I called the ACLU or GLAD. I mean, the notion that you would treat men and women differently is so. It's amazing the Nutcracker hasn't been banned with that kind of instruction to the audience beforehand. I mean, that's just not that. There has to be some sort of sexism in all of that.
Well, everything you're describing obviously plays beautifully and wonderfully into the analogy to calling it the Duck Dynasty of ballet. And you talk about Frederick Douglass makes a cameo at the opening Christmas party, and he's not wearing a cloth or talking about Kwanzaa. An Indian looks like he stepped right out of the logo for the Washington Redskins, performs a stunning Indian dance, and the crowd goes wild. The Tomcat chases the brilliant Red Cardinals with a carnivorous intent. All these politically incorrect things, and here it's celebrated in this wonderful American tradition of the Nutcracker.
Totally celebrated and completely unflinching. Now, granted, when maybe it's not as graphic or as anatomically specific as Phil Robertson was when he was describing when he got into all of his trouble. But honestly, Steve, there's no difference. It's just an acknowledgement that, well, there are different people, and they're different genders, and you know what? That's not a bad thing. But I've always believed that the farther and farther that people get away from the countryside and get away from like where their food comes from and all that kind of stuff, the more and more they just lose sight of the fact that, well, you know what? There are differences, and we can, you can put all the lipstick you want to on different situations. But if you're raising cattle and you put all your cows in a field and don't put a bull in the field, you're not going to have calves come spring.
Right. No.
And that's not a value judgment, and certainly isn't a judgment against people that aren't heterosexual or whatever. But it is a fact of life, and it's an important thing to know.
Right. No, I don't even know how you make that leap to being heterosexual. It's just a fact of, like I said, it's the law of the jungle. We're talking to Charles Hurt of the Washington Times here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Check out his that great column. It'll open your eyes and it'll make you chuckle at the same time at WashingtonTimes.com. Now, you talk about the sexes and the differences, and we have differences in the latest CNN poll, Charles, that discusses a fictional, imaginary matchup at this point between Hillary Clinton and Chris Christie of registered voters. I never put much faith in that, especially one that's about 3.5 years out. But nonetheless, they're neck and neck. Christie 48-46 over Hillary. But this gender gap exists. Christie leading with men by 14 points, and Hillary leading with women by 10 points.
Yeah, and of course it's very much like what we saw this last go round in 2008 and 2000, whatever Obama's reelection.
12.
Yeah, 2012. That's right. Obviously this is that gap is very bad for conservatives, but I also think that among women voters do expect you to be confident. And I cannot help but think that this disaster of a healthcare thing doesn't have, and we've seen it in some polling. Women don't understand why it doesn't work right. You're supposed to, it's one thing to have political differences, but it's another thing to just completely not be able to do it right. And I think that could weigh down Democrats some. But one of the really interesting other things from that CNN poll, is the generic House race matchup, where Republicans have picked up about a 6 or 7 point.
Actually, 13 points in 2 weeks.
Yeah, and they're at an advantage they're at a significant advantage now.
Yeah.
Republicans are.
They're up. Yeah, I believe it's it's actually 49-44, so it's a 5-point lead, but they had been down by 8 points 2 weeks ago.
And Democrats, they like to look at the other polls out now that show, Congress is the most unpopular in history, and they say, well, since Republicans control the House, this is the damnation.
Thank you. They forget about the Senate.
Well, not only do they forget about the Senate, but also a lot of voters are not they're not paying attention to all this, bicameral business. What they're expressing is they hate Washington, and they hate what the government is doing to them right now, and that is not what Republicans are doing to them. That was what Democrats did to them.
Right.
And that poll very much registers the deep, deep anger about Obamacare, the deep anger about the spending, and the deep anger about the economy that just does not seem to be, it just continues to sort of sputter along.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. The pollsters have us believe that people, the average person that they're calling up or asking, Republicans, Democrats, who do you blame, or what do you think of Congress? And for some reason, that's always a reflection on John Boehner and the Republicans in the House, and they forget that it's split. But you're right, it goes beyond that. They consider Congress to be Washington, and they consider Washington at this point to be Obamacare, and they're sick of it.
Yeah, and then of course, not only do you have pollsters that do that, but then you have the upstanding sterling citizens that are reporters covering all of this, and then by the time they get done with it, of course it looks like it's completely Boehner, and especially since they spent all their time trying to blame Boehner for all of it.
Yeah, well, without a doubt. I mean, that whole thing is insane. And, I'm just saying Democrats have to be running scared. I know they're running scared. There are the few that say Obamacare is going to do this, it's going to do that. People are going to be happy. Again, I keep going back to all these stories. Michelle Obama telling folks, telling the kids or the youngsters, hey, go get yourself health care, $50 a month. You could go to the doctor all the times you want. And I just keep seeing these kids running into their doctor saying, what do you mean I got a bill? Michelle Obama said I could go to the doctor as many times as I want. And they don't have a clue about deductible, out-of-pocket, nothing. And it's so misleading what they're doing to youngsters who, by the way, I heard they were targeting seriously, before all the problems that happened over the weekend with these new Air Jordan shoes from Nike, I heard that they were going to go to the places where these sneakers were being sold and approached these kids on the lines. Can you imagine? I mean, we had a shooting, we had fights, we had stabbings, and they were going to go to these people and say, buy Obamacare?
Yeah, that's not the kind of, they already have enough problems right there. And you add this to it, and it's certainly not a good thing. But I will tell you, you find me, Steve, one Democrat who says Obamacare is going to be a good thing to run on.
Well, Pelosi was one.
but you find me one who, Harry Reid says it. Somebody like Nancy Pelosi says it. She's in the San Francisco district.
Right.
You find me one Democrat who is in a non-90% liberal district.
Right.
Or, in the case of Harry Reid, a Democrat who is even up for re-election. Of course, he's sitting pretty, and he can say it all he wants because he doesn't face voters. But for the rest of them that do, they are scared, and you can just walk around Capitol Hill and you can see it.
Yeah, well, they're not the only ones scared. I'm scared. I mean, I don't know when if I lose this policy in a year, I hope my boss is listening, and I hope I don't, and I hope we don't. But I mean, I'm going to be in the same boat as everybody else, looking at prohibitive rates for coverage, and then prohibitive deductibles. It's going to be very frightening. The average person cannot afford what they're going to have to choose from.
And just think about the people who will then be out on the marketplace with a pre-existing condition, even though they have, say, beaten cancer for, and they're 5 years in the clear now, which there are a lot of people out there that are in that category who still have their insurance, have never not had insurance, and their insurance has picked up every penny of their care, and they are very happy with it. And when those people get kicked off, then suddenly President Obama has just thrown them out into the blizzard without any, shoes on, and then says, "Oh, well, just go sign up over here for this government thing," and talk about seriously disrupting people's lives in a nefarious way. I still can't think of another example in my lifetime where the government has done something.
No, this is it, and they knew what they were doing every step of the way. Charles, thank you very much, my friend. Have a great rest of your Christmas, and we'll check in next week and see if it's good for you for the I guess what would be the first of the year.
Yes, and Happy New Year.
Yes, same to you. Charles Hurt, and to your wonderful family. Steve Malzberg Show. Charles Hurt with us every week here. I love this segment, and that's so funny. His kid's reaction to the Nutcracker afterward in the car riding home. That is so funny. Check out the column at Washington Times. Did I say Post? WashingtonTimes.com. Charles Hurt. Okay, when we come back. Well, not yet, but we'll come back at the bottom of the hour. John Funn joins us to talk more about Obamacare right here. You know where it is. Steve Malzberg Show, Newsmax TV and radio.